Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. When we think of a natural disaster, a hurricane, an earthquake, a wildfire, our minds immediately jump to images of physical destruction. We see collapsing buildings, rising floodwaters, and landscapes scarred by fire. The immediate focus, rightly so, is on physical survival. We board up windows, seek higher ground, and gather essential supplies. But what happens inside our minds, during and after these events, is an equally powerful, and often much more enduring, battle for survival. The psychology of navigating a catastrophe is a complex journey, a true roller coaster of emotions, and a testament to the incredible resilience of the human spirit. This journey isn't a simple, linear path from chaos back to calm. Instead, it unfolds in a series of distinct, though sometimes overlapping, psychological phases, each with its own unique challenges and even opportunities for growth. Today, we're going to walk through that internal landscape. Let's start at the beginning, which, for some disasters, is before they even arrive. This is the pre-disaster phase, and it really only applies to events we can see coming, like a hurricane slowly churning across the ocean, or a wildfire creeping closer over several days. This period is defined by a palpable tension and a sense of heightened anxiety and dread. The threat is known, it's real, but it's not yet present. This uncertainty can be agonizing. Feelings of vulnerability and a complete loss of control are common as individuals and entire communities grapple with the what if. What if it's worse than they predict? What if we don't have enough supplies? What if we have to leave everything behind? For some, this warning period is a gift. It spurs them into proactive, life-saving preparations. They secure their homes, pack go bags, and make evacuation plans. This sense of taking action can itself be a powerful antidote to anxiety. For others, however, the warning can trigger the opposite reaction. They might fall into denial, insisting it won't be that bad, or become paralyzed by a fear so intense that it hinders any effective action. On the other side of the coin, you have disasters that strike without any warning at all: an earthquake, a flash flood, a terrorist attack. These events plunge people directly into chaos, bypassing this prelude of anxiety entirely. The psychological impact here is different. It leaves survivors with a profound sense of having been ambushed by fate, a feeling that they had absolutely no power to protect themselves or their loved ones. And there's a tragic middle ground: those who had warnings but, for whatever reason, failed to heed them. Later, these individuals often struggle with intense feelings of guilt and self-blame, replaying the what-ifs and should-haves over and over again in their minds. Then comes the moment of impact. This is the point where the disaster becomes a stark, terrifying reality. The ground is shaking, the sirens are wailing, the water is rising. This phase can last for mere minutes, like during an earthquake, or it can stretch on for hours in a hurricane or a blizzard. The initial human response is often one of shock, utter confusion, and disbelief. It's a moment of cognitive dissonance, where the mind struggles to process the overwhelming sensory input and the immediate, mortal threat. As one survivor of a wildfire described it, "It was the moment I realized how close the fire actually was and that I might have to evacuate. I found myself paralyzed for a moment, unsure of what to do next." This paralysis is a common reaction before our primal survival instincts take over. And when they do, it's a dramatic biological event. The body's fight-or-flight response goes into overdrive. The adrenal glands start pumping out cortisol and epinephrine, jacking up your heart rate and blood pressure. Your vision narrows, literally creating tunnel vision, to focus only on the immediate threat. This physiological reaction is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provides the raw energy needed for survival, to run faster, lift heavier objects, or endure pain. On the other hand, it severely impairs our capacity for rational, complex decision-making. The part of our brain responsible for logic, the prefrontal cortex, essentially goes offline. The primary focus during this time is stripped down to its bare essentials: self-preservation and the safety of one's immediate family. In the immediate aftermath of the impact, a remarkable transformation often occurs. The shock and confusion give way to what's known as the heroic phase. This period is characterized by a massive surge of adrenaline and a powerful, almost contagious sense of altruism. During this time, ordinary people may perform extraordinary acts of bravery. They might wade into floodwaters to rescue a stranger, run into a damaged building to check on neighbors, or work for hours without rest to clear debris. Personal safety is often disregarded in a collective desire to help. There's a strong sense of community, a feeling of we're all in this together. People check on each other, share scarce resources, and volunteer with local organizations. This phase, driven by a shared sense of purpose and connection, is absolutely crucial for immediate survival and rescue efforts. However, while the activity level is incredibly high, it's often low in actual productivity. The rush of energy is physically and emotionally exhausting, and people are still not thinking entirely clearly. Their capacity to accurately assess risk may still be impaired, which can unfortunately lead to further injuries. Think of it as a community running on pure adrenaline. It's a powerful force for good in the short term, but it is by its very nature unsustainable. Following the heroic phase, a honeymoon period typically sets in, and it can last from a few weeks to several months. The name sounds odd, but it reflects a dramatic and positive shift in emotion. There's a surge of optimism and community bonding. Disaster assistance from governmental and volunteer organizations is often readily available and highly visible. The news is filled with stories of heroism and resilience. Survivors may feel a short-lived but powerful sense of hope that everything will return to normal quickly. This phase is a critical window of opportunity. It's when mental health workers and support organizations can most easily build rapport with the affected population, as people are generally more open and hopeful. The shared experience creates strong bonds between neighbors and strangers alike. People feel a collective pride in their community's ability to pull together. However, the optimism of the honeymoon phase is often temporary and can be deceptive. It's a fragile calm before the more arduous, less glamorous journey of long-term recovery begins. It's like the community takes a collective deep breath, feeling they've weathered the worst of the storm, without yet realizing the true extent of the marathon that lies ahead. And that marathon begins with the disillusionment phase. This can be the most challenging and emotionally taxing phase of all. It begins as the initial wave of support recedes. The news crews pack up and leave, the volunteer groups move on to the next disaster, and the reality of the long-term recovery process sets in. This is when individuals and communities begin to realize the true limits of disaster assistance. The optimism of the honeymoon phase sours and turns to discouragement, frustration, and even anger. The sheer physical and emotional exhaustion from the ongoing stress begins to take a heavy toll. This is when negative reactions, such as substance abuse, family conflict, and physical exhaustion, often begin to surface. There's a painful gap that emerges between the overwhelming need for assistance, for rebuilding homes, for financial aid, for mental health services, and the resources that are actually available. This can lead to deep feelings of abandonment and resentment. People might start to feel forgotten by the outside world. This phase can last for months or even stretch into years, marked by setbacks and bureaucratic red tape. Furthermore, trigger events can bring a resurgence of these negative emotions with surprising force. The anniversary of the disaster, a similar event happening elsewhere in the world, or even a particular sound or smell can transport a person right back to the trauma. This is the long, hard road of recovery, where the initial sense of community can sometimes fracture under the immense and prolonged strain. The final phase of this psychological journey is reconstruction, which can last for years, or, in some cases, a lifetime. This is the period of gradual recovery, where individuals and communities begin to truly take responsibility for rebuilding their lives. It's a time of adjusting to a new normal. The goal is no longer to get back to the way things were before the disaster, because that reality is gone forever. Instead, it's about integrating the experience into a new reality. The physical construction of new homes, schools, and infrastructure serves as a tangible, visible sign of recovery. But this physical rebuilding also brings renewed and often painful recognition of all that was lost: the homes, the heirlooms, the loved ones. This phase is about looking forward while continuing to grieve those losses. It is a time for finding positive lessons and meaning in the tragedy. It's about building a future that acknowledges the past, but is not defined solely by it. This difficult process of finding meaning in trauma is what researchers call post-traumatic growth, and it's a critical part of a healthy, long-term recovery. So we've seen the collective journey, but what about the individual? What is it that allows some people to not only survive, but also thrive in the face of such adversity? The answer seems to lie in what we can call the survival mindset. And let's be clear, this mindset is not about being fearless. It's about effectively managing fear. It encompasses several key psychological attributes. First and foremost is mental resilience. This is the core ability to maintain a positive outlook, to persevere through countless obstacles, and to adapt to constantly changing circumstances. Resilient individuals aren't immune to pain or grief, but they tend to be optimistic and have a knack for finding meaning even in the most challenging situations. Next is adaptability. Survival often requires flexible thinking and creative problem-solving under the most extreme pressure imaginable. Those who can quickly and accurately assess a situation, identify whatever resources are available, no matter how small, and find innovative solutions are far more likely to succeed. Another vital skill is emotional regulation. The ability to manage intense emotions like panic, rage, and despair is vital for making rational decisions when your life depends on it. This involves acknowledging and processing your feelings without letting them become so overwhelming that they paralyze you. And at the rock bottom of it all, there's the will to live. This is the primal biological instinct that propels individuals forward. Research has consistently shown that having something or someone to live for, a child, a spouse, a deeply held purpose, can significantly increase the chances of survival. It gives you a reason to fight when every part of you wants to give up. Finally, let's not discount knowledge and conditioning. Understanding potential disasters and how to prepare is a cornerstone of survival. And a healthy, well-conditioned body is simply better equipped to handle the immense physical and mental stress of a crisis. The emotional and psychological impact of a natural disaster can linger long after the physical debris has been cleared. For some, the trauma can lead to long-term mental health challenges. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a common outcome, with symptoms like flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety. General anxiety disorders and depression are also frequent. And then there's survivor's guilt, the profound and often debilitating feeling of having survived when others did not. This can be a heavy burden to carry, full of why me? Questions that have no answers. However, and this is one of the most remarkable findings in psychology, the aftermath of a disaster can also be a catalyst for profound personal growth. Many survivors report a greater appreciation for life, a shifting of priorities away from the material and toward the meaningful. They often develop stronger relationships with family and friends, and discover a newfound sense of personal strength they never knew they possessed. This phenomenon, as we mentioned earlier, is known as post-traumatic growth. It's a powerful testament to the human capacity to not just heal, but to find meaning and purpose in the face of immense suffering. It doesn't erase the pain, but it coexists with it, creating a richer, more profound perspective on life. Recovering from this kind of psychological trauma is a marathon, not a sprint. So, what are some practical strategies for navigating this challenging journey? First, acknowledge your feelings. It is normal to experience a wide range of intense and unpredictable emotions. Allowing yourself to feel them without judgment is a necessary part of grieving and coping. Second, seek support. Do not try to go it alone. Connecting with family, friends, community support groups, or mental health professionals can make a world of difference. Third, establish a routine. In the midst of chaos, re-establishing a normal schedule, even a simple one, can provide a much-needed sense of stability and control. Fourth, take care of your physical health. The mind and body are intricately linked. Eating well, staying hydrated, getting whatever exercise you can, and prioritizing sleep are not luxuries. They are essential for reducing the negative physical and mental effects of stress. Fifth, limit media exposure. Constant exposure to news and social media coverage of the disaster can re-traumatize you and increase distress. It's important to stay informed, but it's equally important to unplug. And finally, be patient with yourself. Recovery takes time. There will be good days and bad days. Give yourself the grace to navigate the ups and downs of the process. The journey through the psychological landscape of a natural disaster is a profound and transformative experience. It is a harsh lesson in the fragility of life, but it is also an incredible demonstration of the strength of the human spirit. We see that in the heroic phase, in the community bonding of the honeymoon, and in the quiet determination of the long reconstruction. By understanding these phases of psychological response, by cultivating a resilient and adaptive mindset, and by embracing the fundamental power of human connection, we can not only endure the unimaginable, but we can also emerge from it with a deeper understanding of ourselves, our communities, and the world around us. It's a reminder that even after the earth shakes and the winds howl, the quiet, internal work of rebuilding is where our greatest strength is truly found. Thanks for listening to Fun Facts Online.